So I'm going to discuss with you how we can apply unite and separate on a data frame to get our desired results that we're looking at. Okay, so first, when we talk about separate, we means to split, and we have a columns of interest that we wanted to split into multiple columns. Example, we have a tidyr, which is a function in R, which is a package in R, and in this package we can find separate function in it. So then first we bring in our storms, which is our data set. And in this data set we have a date. So date here is a column or variable in these storms data. But then in this column, which is date, we wanted to split this date column into year, month, and date. So that's where select come in handy. Like we have this column, but probably your supervisor or your professor tells you that he's not interested to work with date as a whole, but he wants to discuss, probably interested in the month or the year of the patients, or probably the month of the patients or something else. So that's where we will now split this single column into multiple columns. On the other hand, the opposite of separate is unite. Instead of splitting the columns, now we wanted to concatenate the columns together, to put the columns together to form a single entity. Now here we have multiple columns, year, month, and date. But then we want to combine them together as just date column. Instead of having a day, month, and year, we want to have it as a date column, to a single column. So that's what we mean by unite and also separate. But then to understand better, we will practically demonstrate how we can accomplish this using our programming software. So let's get started. Now this is our interface, our studio interface that we will practically implement how we can apply separate and unite on a data set. So first we will go further to load the data set that we will be working with in this example. So the data is in CSV file, and the name of our data set is it's sales CSV. So this is our data set. And when you look at our environment, let me just whiten this a little bit. So our data set is loaded with 421,570 rows or observations, and we only have 5 variables in this data. But then let's take this back. Okay, so this is how our data set looks like. We have store, department, date, weekly sales, and if it is holiday, yes for true, and false for no. But then we are not interested in this store column, department, weekly sales, and holiday. Our interest applies separate and unite is going to be on this date column. So what we're going to do here is that this column is already unite because the day, month, and year is all together. Now we're going to first separate. We're going to have one column here as day, another column have month, and another column have year. So that's what we mean by separate. So after we split this column into 3 columns, then we will now we'll take those 3 columns, combine together, and form a single column, which is going to be unite. So that's what we're going to do in this video. Okay, so let's get started. Let's go back to our studio, and then we start with separate. So first, separate. So in separate, we're going to create another object called, let's say, separ. That's separate. And then in this, we bring in our data frame, which is this one, and we bring in our pipe operator. That's undone. And then we're going to pipe whatever we have in our data to the separate entity. So we have separate, and what we want to separate is the date column. Date, that is this one. We want to separate month, day, month, and year. So then we have the column we are interested in is date, and we want to separate or split this date column into we want to split this into day, month, date, month, and year. But then after we have this, we also looked into this data and realized that this day, month, and year are separated by a /. So then we have to indicate that we wanted to split these 3 variables from date, but then they are separated by /. So sep is / forward slash. So that's all we have to do, and then this is going to give us our desired output. But then if we run this code, it's going to give us the output, but then the output is going to be almost 421,000 something plus. So we're only interested in sample of it, just the head function to see the few rows of the data. So then we add another function which is head. Yeah, so that's all we have to do. So when we run this code, let's wait a little bit. The data set is too huge, like 400,000 rows. So, but there is, okay, it's loaded. So let's go back. Good. So next we can see that the SEPA is already loaded in our environment with 6 observations. Let me just a little bit. Okay, this will be okay. Now we have 6 observations and 7 variables. If we click this SEPA data, and we will see that now when we go to original data, we have day, month, and year is being separated to day, month, and year. So that's what we want to do. So that's what separates will actually do for you. For example, you are working on this data set, and your supervisor tells you that he's not interested in having date, month, year in one column. He wants you to have different columns where you can specifically stipulate your date, your month, and your year. Then you can use separate from tidyr package, and this can help you to accomplish that task easily. Now let's assume that on the other side of the coin we have day, month, year in our data set like this. And our supervisor said, well, I'm not interested in like this, but I want you to concatenate these 3 columns and you name it as combined columns. Instead of having it as date, now I want you to combine day, month, year together, and then you can rename that as combined columns instead of dates. But then I don't want you to use forward slash. I want you to use hyphen. That's this one. I don't want you to use forward slash. I want you to use hyphen to separate the data point as a delimiter. All right. So what we're going to do now is let's blink in unite. And in unite, what we're going to do is we're going to use these data, this separate data, this one, because this is already been separated. So we wanted to concatenate these 3 columns together. So that's why we are using this. We are not using this original data because in here, day, month, and year is already been concatenated together. So we wanted to use this to concatenate. Concatenate actually means to combine columns together. So we wanted to combine these 3 columns together, but then we don't want to use the forward slash as our delimiter. We want to use hyphen as our delimiter. So what we're going to do is that we're going to use the sep data, but then we have to create an object. Let's call this as uni. So uni here means unite for easy comprehension of our functions that we can have in our environment. So we have unite, and we're going to use the SEPA data. And then what we want to pipe in is unite, which is this one. And in unite, we are going to bring a variable that we want to rename as. So we have day, month, and year. So you want to create a variable name that can combine all this together. So I will name that as combine, let's say combine columns. Combine columns. But then which columns do we want to combine together or concatenate together? Day, we want to bring in month and also year. So these are the 3 columns that we want to combine together. But then when we combine together, we have to set our delimiter. We want to combine these 3 columns by what? If you look at our original data set, these 3 columns are combined together with forward slash. But then we are not going to do the same thing in our original data set. We're going to use the hyphen. So that means we're going to specifically indicate our sep. So in this case, the separator here is going to be hyphen like this. So that's all what we're going to do to give us the output for unite. So when we run this code, let's see what happens. Good. So there is no error. So if you look at our environment, we will see that another object is also created, which is uni or unite. The SEPA here is separate, and that we have here the column date is separated into having its own day, month, and year. And then in unite, we will also realize that the columns day, month, year is all combined together to form a combined columns. So and then the delimiter here is not forward slash, it's hyphen from day, month, and year. And for separate is separate our columns together by day, month, and year. And then the unite, combine them together, and it combined together with our separator, which is a hyphen to combine these three columns together. So guys, this is all I want to show you in this video, and I thank you all for your time and thank you for listening to this video.